Let's be honest. Most people talk too much. They fill every silence, rush to explain themselves, and constantly try to be heard. But have you ever noticed that the most attractive people, the ones who make you stop and pay attention, rarely speak much? They enter a room quietly, but somehow everyone feels their presence. They don't fight for attention. They don't perform. They simply exist, and that's enough to draw people in. It's not magic. It's psychology, because silence has power. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of communication. People often think that being silent means being shy, awkward, or weak. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, silence is a form of control. It's a sign of someone who is grounded, self-assured, and comfortable in their own presence. When you speak less, you control what others know about you. You reveal only what you choose to reveal, and that mystery creates gravity. When you talk less, your words begin to carry more weight. Every sentence becomes intentional, every pause filled with meaning. People start to lean in when you finally decide to speak, because deep down, they sense it. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just being. And that calm, quiet energy, that's what we call magnetic presence. There's a psychological reason behind this. It's called the information gap. When people don't know much about you, their minds naturally try to fill in the blanks. And most of the time, they fill it with positive assumptions. The less they know, the more they imagine. That's why mysterious people are so attractive. When you stay silent, you make people curious. They start to wonder, what's going on in your mind? Why do you seem so calm, so unbothered, while everyone else is chasing attention? And that curiosity keeps them drawn to you. You don't need to do anything special. You don't need to be loud, funny, or charming. You just need to be still, present, and let your energy speak for you. Think about actors like Ryan Gosling, Cillian Murphy, or Keanu Reeves. They don't say much, yet when they do, every word hits hard. Their silence builds tension. It creates anticipation. It's not awkward, it's intentional. And that's the key. Silence done with awareness is not emptiness, it's presence. Mystery doesn't come from hiding everything, it comes from revealing just enough to make people want more. When you talk too much, you remove all the tension. You give everything away. But when you speak less, people start craving the next moment you'll open your mouth. That's attraction at its purest psychological form. And here's something most men never realize. Silence and sexual energy are deeply connected. When a man can stay calm, slow, and quiet in front of a woman, without trying to fill the space, without performing, it sends a very primal signal. It says, I'm in control of myself. And that control is unbelievably attractive. Because women don't fall for words, they fall for energy. If your energy is grounded, unshaken, steady, she feels both safe and intrigued at the same time. That's why men who speak softly but confidently, who don't rush to explain or impress, tend to be remembered. They create tension through stillness. They let silence do the work. Real masculinity doesn't need to prove itself through noise. It's quiet, it's controlled, it's aware. That's why silence can be incredibly seductive. Now think about the opposite. Why do most people talk so much? Because they're uncomfortable with silence. Silence exposes insecurity. When there's a pause in conversation, people panic. They think they need to fill it. They fear being seen as boring or uninterested. But the man who's comfortable with silence, he doesn't need to fill it. He owns it. He sits there relaxed, maybe with a slight smile, and the energy around him changes. People start to respect him more. They sense confidence because he's not afraid of being with himself. We live in a world addicted to noise. Everyone's posting, talking, debating, shouting their opinions into the void. But when you learn to master silence, you instantly stand out. You become rare, and people are always drawn to what's rare. There's a Stoic idea that says, the more you talk, the more likely you are to say something foolish. That's why wise men for centuries have practiced silence, not to hide, but to stay in control. And that control was what makes you magnetic. So how can you cultivate this power of silence in your daily life? Start simple. Pause before speaking. Even just 2 or 3 seconds before you respond, it makes a huge difference. It shows that you think before you speak, that you're composed, not reactive. It turns your words into something intentional instead of impulsive. Observe more. Instead of rushing to reply, start observing people. Their tone, their body language, their energy. You'll realize that silence lets you see more than words ever could. Speak with purpose. If your words don't add value, let them stay unspoken. Ask yourself, does this improve the silence? If not, keep quiet. Be comfortable in stillness. Sit alone without distractions. Don't reach for your phone every time there's nothing happening. Learn to exist without stimulation, because when you master stillness, you master yourself. And most importantly, never rush to explain yourself. People who constantly explain are trying to manage how others see them. But confident people, they let others think whatever they want. That's real strength. Remember, silence is not about being passive. It's about being strategic. You must know when to speak and when to stay silent. Stay silent when someone tries to provoke you, when emotions are high, when you don't have the full truth, when speaking won't change anything but your peace. But speak when it matters, when you're defending your values, when you're inspiring others, when your words can move people toward truth, not just emotion, because words are like arrows. Once released, you can't take them back. Use them sparingly, and they'll hit deeper. In a world that never stops talking, silence becomes a form of rebellion. And in that rebellion, you become powerful. When you master silence, people start leaning toward you. They crave your opinion. They remember your energy. They feel something different around you. Something they can't describe, but they can't ignore. That's how attraction really works. Not through showing off, not through endless talking, but through the quiet, grounded energy of someone who knows who they are. So the next time you feel the urge to fill the silence, don't. Breathe, observe, stay calm. Let your silence speak louder than words ever could. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.